Thank you for coming. And I'm glad to be here to try to give you some insights about how you can create some tools and hacks so you can improve your workflow. And also, you're going to see 5 hacks. It's not 4, it's not 6, it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hacks that I personally been using in all the years of experience I have as a Topcoder competitor and copilot. And which is basically why we're here today. So I would like to make clear that this is for people who has some experience with design tools such as Sketch, Adobe XD, or Figma, or anything like that. And so probably you already had your first experience in challenges, or you're an expert, but this should be helpful for you because you normally face a typical workflow when you're doing your work. And then you invest time in competitions. So you want to make sure you use this time in the best quality possible. And for that, so basically what we're going to learn here today is we're going to save time, how to save time and remove the stress in the design challenges and during all the workflow life cycle, and the 5 hacks for the win. And as Harshi said, this is your host, this guy here, who's crazy for handstands everywhere he travels. I'm Luis. I have, I don't know, a zillion of years of experience as a remote worker, like 14 years or more with Topcoder. And there's not much that can be said about me rather than I love butter chicken with garlic naan. And this is why this webinar is proudly sponsored by the Butter Chicken Squad, which is coincidentally presided by the same guy who introduced me, who is the CEO, which is Harshit. And he's normally behind the controls of each of these webinars. And I think this guy deserves a big round of applause. So please, let's thank Harshit for his marvelous work with us here. So to recap quickly, to make sure to understand, especially for me, because I tend to forget things, to recap why we're here today. So this is our agenda. And it's basically 2 sections. In the first section, I want you to understand how I came with these 5 hacks. I mean, what principles, what opportunities were found in order for me to realize how to create these tools and hacks. So you can also do it because it's not something that you're gonna copy. Of course, you can do it. You can just use my tools, the tools that I'm gonna provide by the end of in the recording of this webinar. But there's also something I would like to offer is the tools and the understanding. So you can also do it on your own because everyone has their own ways of doing things. And I'm quite sure that maybe I'm doing something wrong. And it's very nice if you can use these principles with the optimization opportunities, so you can create your own workflow as it better suits you. And well, let's go quickly with the design challenge recap because we have to know like how the design challenges work, but we're gonna be very quickly because I assume that you already have some experience with this. So normally we go to topcoder.com/challenges and we see a list of challenges of very different types, like coding, marathon, algorithms, design. So what we normally do is that we use the filters, we browse design challenges as designers and find those that match our skills the best. Let's say, I don't know, I want to do a web app or a mobile app and then just go. And then I would go read the specs and compete. So this is what I'm saying here, just a big mouthful of kind of broad general approach to challenges. But what happens when you take a magnifying glass or a microscope and you look to this process, you get something that is called workflow. And there's a very different workflow for everyone that goes and complete challenges. There's people who jumps to the forums and start asking questions. There's people who they go do some research and then just start gathering resources or inspiration. And sometimes these can be disorganized. And this disorganization can lead to some kind of, let's not say mistakes, but steps that are gonna make you not as efficient as you could if you define your workflow. So what does a workflow look like? And as I said at the beginning, it could be different for everyone, but according to my experience, this is the general broad view of a workflow in Topcoder for the Topcoder design challenges. So you would normally go through a requirements analysis where you read the specs and ask questions, or you raise questions about how things work, what are the user goals, and how does the user benefit from using this product or solution. you have a research phase where you research the user, sketching, visual design, and upload. And this is what this is like the mix of design process and Topcoder process in a nutshell. In my experience, I'm sure that it should be different for you. But the point with this is to point out that given these conditions, how should we focus our efforts to maximize the optimization opportunities? And for this, I like to use something that I call optimization fundamentals, which is basically a set of tenets and principles that help you design your own workflow using optimization techniques. I like to start with this great quote that is very typical to, you can find it like Osmo, and everyone, I've read it in a lot of books, a lot of websites, a lot of anything, everything. And this says that great outcomes require great efforts. And this is where things here can get a little bit polemic because me personally, I'm sure not the only one. I think this is big BS. I mean, I don't think this is totally efficient. And I think the great approach, I mean, the right approach to see work is by doing a smart work. And it's not about like you're not gonna work, you're going to be lazy. No, it's about working in a smart way, so you can use your resources in the right places. So to put it in a simple way, if let's say if you work something for 10 hours, and there's a way that you can do it in 1 hour. So these 9 hours that are there hanging, they're highly a candidate to receive an award of inefficiency. So this is what I mean with working smart. It's not about working, and I'm quite sure if I go beyond this, it has to do with the kind of this delusion that most of us suffer about. More is better, and success is like money and these kind of things. I don't want to go deep on it, but it's related to this, like more is better, and so work more. So please keep in mind that for these tenets that I'm going to share, which are the principles of the optimization fundamentals, you have to be smart about your efforts. So for these principles, we have the first one, to try to illustrate it quicker. It's the scarcity mindset. And for that, let's just illustrate it with an example of cooking. Let's cook. Let's assume that you are in the outside in a forest, and then you have to cook. But the only things that you have is wood. Maybe you have the matches, and that's it. You don't have electricity. You don't have the oven, things. I don't know how to call that. The things that spin. You don't have gas. You don't have any of that. So now what do you do with it? So what I want to convey with this is to, in a similar way with the user experience dimensions, you know that you normally, when you come to a challenge, you want to do everything, because in UX what do you have? You have information architecture, you have even copyright experience, you have visual design, you have user research, you have several dimensions that you normally want to apply to a project, especially when you come from working in enterprise and not in competitions. So you want to use everything. And then when you see you have this bunch of time applied to a process, and most of these things are not needed. So with the scarcity mindset, is what I'm inviting you to do is to think from all of the things that I know about user experience, what do I need in order to make it work in Topcoder? So this is the scarcity mindset. And as Antoine, the writer from Little Prince, he used to say that something like this, like perfection is something that you get when there's nothing else you can get away. It's like, it's not about adding more, it's about taking things out of it. So normally we have, as I was saying, these components, and this is just something rough because there are even more nowadays about the user experience domains. And so for Topcoder, so you have to decide from these elements, what will you work with? So normally you could use any of these if you had the chance, and I'm sure that you could, but consider, given the time constraints, you have 4 days, 5 days to create a solution, which of these are gonna work better for you? And in my experience, again, I will show you how I found opportunities for optimization and design challenges. This will be short. We'll jump right now to the hacks, to the 5 hacks. But this last piece of information is for you to know how do you find the opportunities? In this case, how I did find them. And so basically what you do is to use the principles and the workflow. So for that, what you need to do for a first start is to do a very severe time scrutiny with the workflow. What do I mean with this? What I would do normally is that I have this application that I use. It's called Toggle. I keep track of how I invest my time in the challenge. Like, and let's say in the reading specs, 30 minutes, analyzing specs, doing user research, like 45 minutes. And it's just taking notes of the time that it takes you to do each single one of the phases that you use in your workflow. And then I know it's going to be different because there are different type of challenges, but there's going to be an average. And with this average, you have information because you're measuring it. And you have to remember when we measure, we make it manageable. And once we have the numbers, we can see where in these blocks, it could be blocks of time. Let's say in requirements, I normally use 30 minutes. But then let's say we see like in sketching, you have 6 hours in challenges, average. And then you have in visual design, just 1 hour. So you will see something kind of strange in there, like why is so much time invested in sketching and just a little time invested in visual design. So this is going to make you raise questions and just the awareness. The fact that you write it down, it gives you awareness of how you use your time. If you don't write it down, believe me, you're never going to be capable of doing something about it because it's not manageable. So this is like the first step to start finding opportunities. Measure your time in different phases and create blocks of time of how you use your time. And lastly is about, once you have this, find the spots where you can reduce decision-making options, because when you have to make decisions during a process of any process, it just adds a cognitive load of thinking, analyzing. So the earlier the decisions are made, it's the better for you because you're not going to have to make decisions in the middle of your design process, like workflow-wise decision, but creative decisions, they are encouraged. Instead of using your time to decide if I use I don't know, should I read the specs first or the last, or I don't know, should I like download the inspirations first, or if you have this defined, you already make the decisions, so you don't have to think about it. You just have to go and execute and use this energy to think about how to improve a solution or how to be creative with your work. So this is it. So if you remember before, this was my broad general workflow for design challenges in Topcoder. So basically this is it. Like, how much in reading specs, what can I do now to reduce the time and maximize the outputs? These are the type of questions that you have to make to yourself if you see anomalies with the time in the phases. In visual design, what can I do now to reduce the time that I invest here and maximize the outputs? And again, I really like to make emphasis on this. This decision is the result of my personal experience. I mean, through the zillions of years here in Topcoder, it can be different to you. So really, really encourage you to give some thoughts to this and try your own way. So the results from my experience, it would be I would add emphasis and concentrate my efforts, my minimum efforts to maximize outputs in visual design and the upload process. I know there are things that can be done in the previous steps, but these are the ones that are where I found more opportunities. And if I magnify this to the tools or specific items that I use for this, for the visual design, I just simply created a lightweight, very, very lightweight design system, a stock recycling technique, a cloud system synchronization process, declaration safe. So please never ever fail screening again. That's really bad. And a submission automation, which is basically a very cool hack that I would like to say learn, but when you steal something, that is not called learning, that is called stealing. I got it from Vicky, but Vicky, I'm not sure if she's here. If she's here, hi Vicky. And it's a really cool hack that she showed me when we were in India about how she really reduced a lot of stress with the design, with the submission packaging process, where you have the you know that you have to normally to upload like a zip file for your screens, a zip file for your source files. And normally when you do this last minute, it's very nerve wracking. And this is just an automation tool that you just click something and it creates a zip file. So as I said, we want to have a design system. We're going to have a stock recycling library, cloud system. Oh, this is going to be good. I hope you like this one. We're going to have a declaration bundle and the automation. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I need to share something else. So let's go with the first one, which is the design system. Let's get our hands dirty with some work here. Okay, so a design system is normally a very complex universe of cohesive elements that are product level, branded, and they are reusable for your projects. Something that is normally product level, as I mentioned, not just for like a mobile app. It holds the universe of components that can be used in mobile, web app, even digital printing, everything. But the concept that I'm trying to convey here is a very lightweight design system with very basic elements that are going to reduce a lot of decisions in your workflow. So for a start, this is half a strategy and half a hack. Because the strategy that we're using here, I have to remind you that in design challenges, you normally have a certain amount of time to provide your solutions, either checkpoint or final submissions, which is normally the typical format. And in this time, you have limited amount of mind, as I said, and also a focus that you have to take, an approach that you have to convey in order to provide a solution. So normally, one of the mistakes that I've seen when you are new in Topcoder is that people add too much extra effort in creating aesthetics. I'm not saying that don't be aesthetic, because we know that we have a big impact logically. However, given the proven statistics that said that when you go to the feedback round and you don't even get feedback, there's people, I think in the last research that I did, it was more than 50% of people who doesn't even checkpoint price, but they have feedback. And so what I mean with this is that it's more important, in my opinion, is the approach that you take to solve a problem in a frictionless way, even though your visuals are not perfect. It doesn't have to be like golden, shiny visuals in order to win and get good feedback for the checkpoint round. What I mean is that I would focus my efforts into providing a workflow that solves a problem in a frictionless way. And for that, I need to, something that would be very good in this strategy is that something that is good is that it's going to save me heaps of time, because I don't need to make decisions about colors, about which font. Just I want the solution to work. I don't want it just to be pretty or aesthetically elegant. Of course, the lightweight design system helps us to use these options by quickly. When I start a project, I have a typography, two typographies, and I have some colors that I'm going to use. Of course, I can change the brand.
Okay, so the question is, I know that I won't be able to make it light, but there is this big question I have about the color handling. We have two options here. One is tiles and the other is using symbols. The latter is the older approach, I think, but I think that gives more flexibility. Yeah. For instance, I can mask text as well with them. Do you have any thought about the two options?
Well, yeah, that's a very, very good question.
And she added that you should have a satellite phone. So
yeah. Yeah. So for that, I'm quite sure what she means with that. She's not gonna make it light. Yeah, but it's good. It's encouraged to, I mean, to do it your own way. It's not that there's a definite way of doing design systems. But I do like, and I prefer the old way, which is using overrides for using symbols for using your components. Because it's easy to replace them, and for the scope, normally for the scope, what I would take in mind for this lightweight system is that it's the scope. And we normally know that the life cycle of a design challenge, when you finish it, the further that you get to go is to provide this as a kind of, let's say, extra bonus to the client, because the client can use this. And also for the final fixes, which is great because when you have to do final fixes, it's normal to have, you guys know this, like, let's go back to using like this grading of this color, or using, or replacing this icon. And when you're using symbols and shapes to mask down the icons, and using the overriding approach, I think it's faster and to do for final fixes. The other way around, I think, is a little bit takes more time to maintain. I mean, it's more organized, of course. It's just a matter of time, and you know, I'm time maniac, and I try to use the less. So I think I could share the screen. Do you guys, if you guys can see it, please let me know, because I don't know. I don't yeah, I think I'm okay. All right. So I think something I was trying to convey with the design system is that, let's say, like what I was saying, I want to change the font to, let's say now I don't know, like I'm using, instead of Helvetica, I'm gonna use permanent marker, and I just simply update it here, and all the components that are using this H3 title are gonna be now updated to the new font that I decided to use. And in the same way, it was same way with the colors. Okay, this is this one. So if I want to change the color of the stars, I would select the specific color, and then I don't know, I want to make it very grainy or something like that, and then I update it, and it legally should be reflected in all of the components that are using these colors. So these are just a couple of benefits that you could have by using a very lightweight design systems. And one is, as I mentioned earlier, reducing the design making options. The less you have to decide on things is the better. And we know that as designers, we tend to be perfectionists. And it's like, it takes like heaps of time to decide, oh, how about this font? Or no, how about this other font? And how about like Helvetica? Or how maybe Roboto? Or I don't know, I think Montserrat is like, and these guys, you know, very much better than me. It takes, I think you're trying to say, so with the lightweight system and the strategy of going fast in the checkpoint round is just to provide a quick solution that looks elegant, but also where you have to make much things and then much kind of but they in a frictionless way. Like the user doesn't even have to think about how to use the interface, because they focus more in how things work. So this is basically part of the strategy. So attack that strategy that can help you win challenges. So that's it. I think I'm gonna plan to of course to share this lightweight design system with you if you want to use it. Or you can build your own design system as we.
Louis, you're breaking a lot. Do you want to turn off your camera while you share your screen? Louis, when you are sharing your screen, do you want to turn off your camera so that the internet is better?
Oh yeah, let's do that.
The band, yeah. I mean, we might hear you well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. So thank you for your patience. I know that breaking up is not a very good experience as a user experience designer myself. But yeah, I think it's not gonna break anymore. I did something with the router. Well, that said, this is all for the lightweight design systems. I hope that to hear your opinion about if you make your own design system, to see which approach you use. It would be interesting to explore and share experiences with this. The second one we have is the stock recycling one, and this is very cool. because you know that normally in design challenges you use, let's say, profile pictures, icons, and you normally there are certain components that you tend to repeat them. If you look deeply and closely into the assets that you're using, you're gonna notice that you maybe use like 3 or 4 times you're using kind of the same profile pictures, maybe sometimes the same UI icons, and instead of going to the third-party app website or designing the icon yourself every time, why don't you like gather them in a single place and then just try to reuse them in a very easy way, and also save from, and also this also has to do with what as I was explaining earlier with the strategy of being fast. And I know that design purists will be shaking in the graves when they find out that I'm suggesting to kind of use the same sites, the same icons most of the times. But it's just to convey a quick solution in your checkpoint round. So, which is what matters the most is normally is how you solve the problem. So reducing the decision making in which icon styles and these kind of things would also help you in the same direction of not having to browse and invest time 1 hour or two in icon browsing and selection or designing your own icons. So with this, what we basically would do, let's say these are, you can, I'm quite sure you can recognize them. These are material icons, Google material. A set of icons designed by Google. They are allowed in the community. They're very safe. They're safe to use. And what you would need is a design tool like Sketch. I'm using Sketch, by the way, but you can do this, all of this also in Adobe XD, which is free in all the platforms, all the OS, most of them. Figma too. There are ways to build design systems and icon libraries like this, because what you need is a design tool that has here the search enable feature. So and normally in this way, there are just thousands of icons. Let's say I say time, and then I just here see the timeline, and then I just copy it, and then I grab it and I place them wherever I want to use. It. And there's also you also use photos. So what I would suggest is you keep like a stock database of the typical user profiles pictures or something that you use commonly. Here we have just a common profile picture, and also you have it in your typical declaration vault for some saying, and then you just have this somewhere that you can quickly grab and put into your working files and directories, and that way you will be recycling your icons. And if you create them by yourself, you can also have this separate file with the icons with a search feature, and you will be reusing them quite nicely. Okay, the third one is it's a very cool one. It's a cloud service that you can use to keep a backup of your files and also to upload them, of course, in the web, so they are very safe. Because for this, I have to tell you a very, very sad story. When I used to, well, just you're seeing my internet issues, right? So imagine that you're competing and then you spend 30 hours in a competition designing, and for some reason, when you have to upload the files, and if you're like me, and I'm quite sure there are many others like that in the community, we like to burn the deadlines. We have to wait the last 10 minutes to upload the files. Why? We don't know. We're just masochists, but we do it. But I do it. And it can be nerve-wracking when you're doing this and then your connection fails, or it's uploading and I don't know, it's a power blackout. And what happens? You wasted 30 times of your precious life doing work. Then that's it. You cannot present it to the client because rules are rules. If you don't upload before the deadline, then you're out. So something that you should know is Topcoder offers a way of actually uploading your files through Google Drive, or the worst cases, you can contact support if you had an emergency or anything, or you had these kind of issues that I described, and then you can share with them a link or something that you have online. So with this way, with a cloud system, you can actually synchronize your work all the time while you're working. And if something like this happens, you have a backup. and then you can quickly act and respond in case of emergency. And I'm quite sure that I don't know. I can say that half of the people who have ever competed in Topcoder in design have had this issue, like last minute submission. It cannot be just you. It can be also maybe, I don't know, something is not very good that day. Morphe, I don't know. There are many things that can happen, and I think that all that is which is a version control system that tracks down every version of your file. And I know that the other tools more visual, but you have to pay, I think. But this one is quite easy actually, and it's not super difficult. In the tutorial that I share, I actually have instructions about how to use it. So for this example here, I'm just gonna do what I would typically do when I'm working with a challenge. Say I'm go to this directory, and then I would have here, have a seed, which is something that I use for. You just have to know one instruction, guys. So to make it really short. Wait. So what I'm doing here is if this thing, I created a seed, which is let's call it a place in the that has a directory with folders, has folder structures and files are predefined for a Topcoder competition. So every time I'm going to the repository for this, not all the files for me. It has a decoration file. It's called for round one, round two. And then when I start designing, I just add the file and just start this folder. One should be. But basically, what it does, I have it.
Wow. Seemed like we're losing him. And then I was hoping he is going to that the internet's going to get better on his side, but didn't happen. Sorry, guys, for all the interruptions and uh, thanks, Mahestro, for another break. You're breaking a lot, Louis.
Still breaking. I mean, it should be like
it was breaking in the end, and I was hopeful that it's gonna get better, but then it got disconnected.
Yeah.
But now
yeah. So sorry. So sorry about that. It's really bad today. I don't know what's happening. Morphe, let's say. Well, yeah, I was planning this little hack of the basically having a place, a way of synchronizing all this work. And as you can see here, it just creates structured folders with elements that are typically used in a challenge. So as I was saying again, just to remove the decision-making options, and you can actually kind of duplicate this if you have, let's say, a local folder files. And then for every challenge, you just copy it and then paste it, change the name, and start working on it. That's also a valid option, but the thing that could be missing is to have a way to upload it automatically to the cloud. And that's something that I would suggest you to think, maybe using Google Drive or Dropbox, any system. I'm using GitLab for this, but you can use your own way. In a way that you can be backing up your work, and in case of an emergency, you have a way to rescue and remove the headaches from the equation when you're working with challenges. Okay, well, that's it. We go to the fourth one, which is actually related to the previous one, which is having a declaration bundles. We know that when you're working in challenges, you need to declare assets, and it could be easy to have slips or like, or you even forget to providing a file. So if you have a place, like a defined folder structure with the typical files and that you use, it helps. It helps you because you don't have to even think about it. It's already there. So when you see it, you just know you have to open it and have to add this information that you're using. And again, if you're using a design system, you will already have this field up with the fonts and the icons. And again, you wouldn't even have to even look at it if you decided to use this approach, this strategy. But I know everyone has their own way. And the last one is the one that I was mentioning. Is it's an automation. It's called automation. It's actually for Mac, okay? But we created this using this tool. It's called the automator in Mac. I'm quite sure it can be done in Windows too, Linux. There should be a way. But what this does is that this creates a workflow of an action. Let's say right click and creating a zip file or opening a picture. You can do this kind of actions with the automator tool. So what this little script here does is that it takes care of all of the files. The decoration around, like the preview, the screens, and anything that you created in your work. You don't even have to. Normally, what you would do would be this: you would come here. Okay, I have to submit a work to this page. Oh, that's cool. So I have to create a submission zip file of the screens. I have to create a source files of the source files. I have to create a GPG and also PNG, by the way. How to create, and then see and then you get your head starts spinning, and then you have started having headaches, and then you say, oh, but and last minute, if you are like us, as I was saying, people who likes to submit last minute things, your nerves will start shaking. You will start shaking, and then you probably going to have a sleep, and then instead of the source files, you're gonna submit the source files of another submission, and then you mix up everything, and your work is wasted again. So we don't want that to happen. So instead of having this nerve-wracking process in your head, you just come here and this is how it works. So you select the run that you're going to submit, and you just go right click, and this is the action. It's called, well, it has this name, but you can put any name. And then it has, of course, a verification process to make sure you're selecting the right files. But normally you just click continue. And what it does, what it did, it was that it created, as you can see here, a zip file that you're going to grab. And of course, I'm not going to submit this here, but what it does is it creates the file for you. And you just forget about screens, this is submission, because it just simply takes what is in the screens folders and it creates a zip file. What is in the source folders and it creates a source file. And let's review here. And it creates a source zip and submission zip and the preview. And it compresses all in one single file. So what it means is that all of the efforts, this is gonna save you, I'm quite sure, I'm not sure if 10 or 20 minutes is maybe can save you that, but what I value the most of this one is the stress that it relieves out of you. And and remember that the less stress you have, the clearer you can think, because your judgment is not gonna be clouded by emotions and stressful emotions, which are actually very, very bad for making decisions. So, well, that's it. After this very, very awful webinar with interruptions, I think that's quite it. Those are the 5 hacks that I have to share with you today. And I hope you guys enjoy them. And I'm gonna try to share them in the webinar description